Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Andy Swan. He's a co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking Chewy. I mean, a little bit of a resurgence that we've seen over the last 8 or 9 months here, up nearly 25% on the year. Do you guys have the data that backs this up? Because, I keep on hearing people are getting rid of pets. I don't know. Maybe they're not getting rid of pets, but and there maybe competition's going away. What's your take here on Chewy?
Well, everybody got a pet during COVID, so I guess maybe some might have grown tired of them. With Chewy, it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, I think, is the best way to put it in terms of LikeFolio data. From an auto ship perspective, which, really is Chewy's crown jewel. It's where you can sign up to have the food, et cetera, automatically shipped to you on a consistent basis, a subscription. That was $2.5 billion last quarter, which was up 15% year over year. And still, that accounts for 82% of their revenue. So we really watch the auto ship mentions and levels in our data, and it looks pretty good. There's rising searches for auto ship, and there's pretty steady or flat searches for canceling auto ship. And so we think that they've got very low churn. Chewy does a great job of maintaining and keeping satisfaction among the customers that it has. What gives us some pause on Chewy is when we look at the web traffic versus the stock price of Chewy. We're seeing a really, it's pretty flat year over year, but the latest month of August, a really 12% decline year over year. And that's a big deal, and it tells us that Chewy's going to have a little bit of a difficult time coming up with a really positive spin or outlook as they move into Q4, especially with the stock, rallying 20% off of August lows. We think that the market may be setting up here for a little bit of disappointment because, what we're seeing is that the auto ship business is very, very stable as expected, but that the new customers coming in the door might be a little bit of a disappointment with those web visits falling off.
Andy, I think there's not much I can add to your presentation other than to say the key is to get them in the door, get them on auto ship, and then retain them, right? The retention is key, but the retention numbers look pretty solid for this company. Once they get you, it looks like people are pretty loyal and the retention levels are pretty solid, but they got to keep getting them, right? I mean, you're right. It's everything I've read about this company. It is all about the auto ship. So they get that recurring, constant, stable inflow of revenue in e-commerce. Andy, is there anything that I'm missing here? Get them on auto ship, retain them. What am I missing?
Yeah, they can upsell the customers that they have. They're starting to do a better job of getting some of those auto ship customers into some higher margin items, consumables, toys, etc., and some of their private label stuff. But there is a little bit of risk of pushback there. One of the things that Chewy customers love is that Chewy doesn't feel like it's always upselling them. And so they're in a little bit of a pickle in that regard because the one thing that they can do to improve their margins is the one thing that their customers like that they don't do. So that's a pretty tough spot to be. And in terms of getting new people in, I think it's really just a factor of, now you have Instacart, you have Uber, you have all of these delivery services that, with a punch of a few buttons, you can get the 40-pound dog food bag delivered to your door in the next couple of hours. You don't really need to have it is perfectly timed on a subscription. So that sales process, that bringing people in and onto auto ship is just more difficult than it was 5 or 6 years ago because the competition is there, they're local, and they're pretty much real time. So that's the conundrum that Chewy is in. I think it's a phenomenal company. It's just where is the next leg of growth going to come from.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to hit on, because that's pretty surprising on those web visits versus the stock price, seeing that diversion there on that. But the veterinary clinics, have you guys got any data on that? Is that starting to gain some traction here, Andy? Because it feels like even though 82% of their customers are using AutoShip at this point, as far as growth goes and kind of supporting these valuations, they need another avenue of revenue potential.
Yeah, they do. And, we don't have a ton of visibility into the throughput from those veterinary partnerships. So we try not to, get out ahead of our skis too much on those. I'll be very interested in what Chewy says on the call about that. I think that is a wild card and something that we'll definitely be watching for, because if they can get another customer acquisition channel really going and ramping up, like Kevin said before, they get people in the door, they tend to stick. And it's just, how do we get people in the door? Hopefully the vet partnerships and those offerings help bring people in and get them hooked on the Chewy experience, because it is a very good experience for the customer.
Andy, going into this report, what kind of score do you guys have on this one?
Yeah, it would be neutral, but I think the stock's bounce has been just a little bit. I think there's a little bit of a high bar being set. It's going to be tough for them to reach. It's going to be tough for them to have extremely excited guidance. So if I had to bet, I would bet that Chewy pulls back after this report.
All right. Pretty good run so far. As I mentioned, 25% gains so far this year. All right, great stuff as always, Andy. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, that's Andy Swan. He's a co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking it down for us. Well, Kevin,